relentless sun blazed mercilessly over the vast multitude of the children of Israel, casting long, harsh shadows across the jagged rocks and shifting sands as they journeyed wearily around the hostile land of Edom. 40 long and arduous years had passed since their miraculous exodus from the bondage of Egypt, and the shimmering mirage of the Promised Land still seemed like a distant, unattainable dream to their exhausted minds. A deep, crushing weariness had settled into their very bones, and the fragile light of hope was wearing dangerously thin with each passing day spent trudging through this barren and unforgiving wilderness. In this desolate landscape, where water was scarce and shade was a luxury, their supplies dwindled rapidly, and the daily struggle for survival began to erode their patience and their trust in the divine plan. The manna, which they had once received with awe as a miraculous bread from heaven, had now become a source of mundane routine, and the fickle human heart so easily forgets the profound debt of gratitude when blessings become commonplace. Discontent, festering like a malignant disease, began to spread rapidly through the sprawling camp, moving from tent to tent and heart to heart, poisoning the spirit of the community with bitterness.
The prophet is a liar.
What began as quiet, hushed whispers of complaint in the dark of night soon grew into the roar of open rebellion under the scorching midday sun, challenging the very leadership that had saved them. They turned on their leader with accusations born of despair, demanding to know why they'd been brought up out of Egypt only to face the prospect of a miserable death in this godless wilderness. Their voices rose in a chorus of ungrateful lament, crying out that there was no bread to sustain them, no water to quench their thirst, and that they utterly detested the miserable food God provided.
They are coming from the
Their rejection of God's daily provision was absolute and heartbreaking, as the bread from heaven was verbally trampled underfoot like worthless dust by the very people whose lives it sustained every single morning. Moses, now an ancient man who had endured decades of their grumbling and faithlessness, felt the heavy weight of their ingratitude pressing down on his shoulders like a physical burden he could no longer carry. The Lord's response to this open defiance was swift and terrifying, arriving as the evening shadows began to lengthen across the camp, turning the familiar twilight into a time of absolute dread. Suddenly, the ground seemed to come alive as the first of the serpents appeared, slithering from the cracks in the rocks and the shadows of the dunes, venomous messengers sent to deliver divine judgment. Their fangs delivered not just a deadly physical venom, but a burning, searing reminder of the fiery words of rebellion and ungratefulness that had provoked this severe judgment from the heavens. Terror spread through the encampment faster than the serpents themselves, as screams echoed off the canyon walls and panic overtook the orderly rows of tents, turning the camp into a chaotic nightmare. There was no refuge to be found, for the serpents seemed to be everywhere, invading the privacy of their tents and striking at those who fled, leaving no corner of the camp safe from their bite. The venom worked with frightening speed, burning through veins like liquid fire, causing a feverish agony that mirrored the burning anger of the people, and many Israelites began to fall where they stood. Bodies lay scattered across the sand, becoming as lifeless and cold as their faith had become in the days leading up to this tragedy, a grim testament to the cost of rejecting divine providence. By the way, if you're finding this visualization of biblical history interesting or meaningful, please consider subscribing to the channel as it supports the creation of more detailed animated stories like this one. Faced with the immediate reality of death, the pride of the people crumbled instantly, and the arrogance that had fueled their rebellion evaporated in the heat of their desperate fear for survival. The elders who had once stood tall and joined in the loud complaints against leadership now came to Moses with heads bowed low and words that were very different from their earlier
journey was long,
accusations.
but the Lord guided us.
They confessed with trembling voices that they had sinned greatly when they spoke against the Lord and against Moses, acknowledging the error of their ways in the face of such overwhelming judgment. They pleaded with Moses to intercede on their behalf, begging him to pray that the Lord would take the snakes away from them and spare the remnant of the people from total destruction.
We cannot go on in this barren land.
Moses, despite enduring decades of their rebellion and personal attacks, did not hesitate to intercede for his people, showing a depth of leadership and compassion that went far beyond human patience. His love for this stubborn nation mirrored God's own unfathomable mercy, proving that a true shepherd does not abandon his flock even when they bite the hand that feeds them. The Lord spoke to Moses in response to his prayer, not with the expected command to simply remove the serpents, but with an instruction that was strange, specific, and profoundly theological. Make a snake, God instructed him. Fashion it in the image of the creatures that are tormenting you, and put it up high on a pole where it can be seen by everyone in the camp. The divine promise accompanied the command. Anyone who is bitten can look at this raised image and live, offering a path to salvation that required an act of obedient faith rather than physical effort. Through the long, dark night, Moses worked tirelessly by the light of the fire, shaping redemption from bronze metal and intense heat, pouring his energy into the task God had set before him. His aged hands, the very same hands that had once stretched out over the Red Sea to part the waters, now crafted salvation in the image of judgment, forging a symbol of hope from the materials of earth. It was a divine paradox that the very symbol of their punishment, the serpent, would become the channel of their healing, teaching them that God can transform the instruments of death into vehicles of life. As dawn broke over the chaotic camp, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold, the bronze serpent was raised high upon a sturdy wooden pole, gleaming brightly in the first light of the morning. The structure was positioned centrally, visible from every corner of the vast encampment, standing as a beacon of hope amidst the suffering and death that had claimed so many lives during the night. Look to the serpent and live, Moses shouted out with a voice that carried across the wind, urging all who had been bitten to turn their eyes away from their pain and toward the bronze serpent. Some in the crowd scoffed at the simplicity of the remedy, their rational minds unable to comprehend how merely looking at a metal image could possibly heal the deadly venom coursing through their veins. Yet in this simplicity lay the profound test of faith, for God was asking them to trust in His word alone, bypassing their understanding and demanding total reliance on His specific instruction. A young man whose strength was failing rapidly with each laboring heartbeat dragged himself painfully through the dust toward the center of the camp, desperate for a chance at life. The venom had nearly claimed him, his vision blurring and his body burning with fever. But he had heard the promise shouted by Moses and clung to it as his only remaining hope. With his last reserve of strength, he lifted his heavy head and fixed his gaze upon the bronze serpent that seemed to shimmer and glow against the backdrop of the bright blue sky. In that precise moment of obedience and focused faith, something truly miraculous happened within his broken body, defying all natural laws of medicine and biology. The burning sensation in his veins began to recede like a tide going out. The fever broke instantly, and a cool wave of relief washed over him, replacing the agony of death. Strength returned to his limbs. Breath came easier to his constricted lungs, and he stood up, completely healed and restored, a living testament to the power of obedient faith. Across the camp, similar scenes played out as the healed became the healers, carrying the weak on their backs and directing the dying to look up at the pole.
serpent and live.
Pointing fingers directed gaze after gaze to look upon the raised serpent and live, creating a ripple effect of salvation that spread from the center of the camp to its furthest edges. Look and live, such a simple command, yet its true meaning and depth would not be fully revealed until many generations later, in a time and place far removed from this wilderness. It would be revealed when another would be lifted up, not upon a pole of bronze, but upon a rugged cross of wood, bearing the weight of the world's sin upon his shoulders. He would be lifted up not merely as a symbol of healing, but as the Savior of mankind, taking upon himself the judgment that we deserve so that we might have life. Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, Jesus himself would later say, "So the Son of Man must be lifted up, that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him."
Promise is everlasting.
In the wilderness, their healing came through a look of faith, by looking toward what God had provided as a remedy, turning away from their own efforts and trusting in the divine solution. And so it is with us today. To look is to trust, and to trust is to live, finding our salvation not in our own works, but in the finished work of the one who was lifted up for us. The story of the bronze serpent stands as a monumental lesson in the history of faith, reminding us that God's ways are often not our ways, but His provision is always perfect. It teaches us that even in the midst of judgment and the consequences of our own rebellion, God's mercy is always available to those who are willing to look up and believe. As the Israelites resumed their journey, the bronze serpent remained a part of their history. A tangible reminder of the day death was defeated by a look of faith. The camp, once filled with the screams of the dying, was now filled with the hushed reverence of a people who had looked death in the face and been spared by grace. Moses looked out over his people, his heart relieved, knowing that they had learned a hard lesson about the cost of sin and the value of trusting in the Lord's provision. The journey to the promised land would continue, and though there would be more trials ahead, this day would be etched
That
into their
life is behind
collective
us now,
memory
Ephraim.
forever.
We walk towards the promise, difficult as the journey.
The sun that had blazed so mercilessly upon them now seemed to shine with a gentler light, as if the very heavens were acknowledging the restoration of the relationship between God and his people. They packed their tents and gathered their belongings,
Bring the ropes
moving
for the camels.
forward with a renewed sense of purpose, leaving behind the place of serpents, but carrying the lesson. The wilderness, once a place of certain death, had become a sanctuary of revelation, where the character of God was displayed in both his justice and his incredible love. Every step they took towards Canaan was now a step taken in the shadow of that great mercy, a mercy that would one day be fully realized in the person of the Messiah. We hope this visualization has helped bring this powerful biblical narrative to life for you, offering a new perspective on a story you may have heard many times before. If
Make
you
sure
haven't
subscribe
subscribed to our
the
channel
right
yet,
here.
please don't forget to do so right now, as your support is crucial in helping us continue to provide you with amazing videos like this. We are committed to sharing these timeless stories with the world, using modern technology to illuminate ancient truths and share the message of hope and redemption. Your likes, comments, and shares help these videos reach more people, spreading the inspiration and the lessons contained within these sacred texts to a wider audience. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for journeying with us through the wilderness of Edom to witness the miracle of the bronze serpent and the saving power of faith. May you also find the strength to look up when you're facing your own wilderness, and may you find life and healing in the one who is lifted up for you. Remember that no matter how far we may stray or how much we may grumble, the remedy for our brokenness is always within sight if we only have the eyes to see it. Let the story of the bronze serpent be a constant reminder that salvation is a gift to be received, not a prize to be earned, available to all who believe. As the screen fades to black, take a moment to reflect on the areas of your life where you need to look up and live, trusting in the provision that has already been made. The ancient Israelites found physical healing in the desert, but the spiritual healing available to us today is eternal, transcending time and space. The venom of sin may be deadly, but the cure is potent and absolute, capable of washing away every stain and healing every wound. Let faith be your guide, let hope be your anchor, and let the truth of this story resonate in your heart long after the video has ended. We look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we will continue to explore the fascinating and transformative stories of the Bible together. Until then, keep looking up, keep believing, and keep walking in the light of the truth that sets us free. The journey of faith is long, but we do not walk it alone. We walk it with the cloud of witnesses
The
who have
journey
gone before
requires
us.
courage, but the destination is...
Witnesses like Moses, like the repentant elders, and like the young man who found strength in a simple look. Their stories are our stories, their struggles are our struggles, and their victory can be our victory. Thank you again for being a part of this community. Peace be with you. Look and live.
Look and live.